In the last video, we saw that, according to Aristotle, eudaimonia, a happy, good, and successful life, is only possible through the realization of virtues. For Aristotle, a good life is a virtuous life. To understand what types of virtues there are and how these virtues arise, let's take a look at Aristotle's theory of the soul. Aristotle divides the human soul into three parts. At the lowest level is the organic vegetative capacity. Plants and animals also have this part of the soul. This faculty controls nutrition and growth. In humans, it also works during sleep, so it does not require consciousness. It is completely irrational and therefore has no relationship to reason. The second part of the soul is the sensual desiring faculty or striving faculty. Animals also have this faculty. Movement, sensory perception, and affects are controlled by this faculty. In humans, the sensual desiring faculty or striving faculty exists in a special form. Although it is unreasoning itself, it is able to listen to reason and act in accordance with reason, unlike the vegetative faculty of the soul. In this way, reason can influence the affects in humans. We will look at exactly how this works later. And finally, the human soul, and only the human soul, has a rational faculty. This is responsible for reason, understanding, and insight. It is very important to note that Aristotle's soul is not something supernatural or specifically human, but the life principle of every living being. Plants and animals also have a soul. Plants only have the vegetative capacity to control their nutrition and growth. Animals also have the sensory desiring faculty. They can move, perceive the world through their senses, and have effects. And only the human being also possesses the rational faculty of the soul. It is endowed with reason and capable of knowledge. This division will certainly sound familiar to you. We had already seen this hierarchy and division in Aristotle's view of the world and man. But how do these soul faculties interact in humans? And how do the virtues arise? Let's take a look at a more detailed diagram of Aristotle's model of the soul. Here, you can see the three parts of the soul from before. But this graphic shows how the individual parts of the soul interact with each other. You can see here that the vegetative faculty has no relation to reason. That is why it does not belong to the specifically human aspects of the soul. The rational faculty of the soul, which, as we now know, is specifically human, can, on the one hand, as shown on the far right, be purely rational. Here, the dianoetic virtues arise through pure intellectual activity, for example, through philosophical contemplation, through teaching. Dianoetic virtues are purely intellectual virtues. These virtues include science, intelligence, theoretical wisdom, craft expertise, and practical wisdom. We will take a closer look at what is meant by each of these virtues in a moment. Practical wisdom has a very special role to play here. Through practical wisdom, the rational part of the soul influences the unreasonable part of the soul, more precisely the sensitive or sensual desiring faculty, and here the affects. One of the dianoetic virtues, practical wisdom, can therefore influence the affects. There is therefore a rationally active part of the soul which, via the dianoetic virtue of practical wisdom, influences the affects, and thus the sensitive part of the soul. In contrast to animals, the sensitive faculty in humans can listen to reason. Although it is irrational, it has a connection to the rational faculty of the soul. And this is where it gets really interesting, because the fact that practical wisdom influences the affects means that the affects can be controlled and good behavior can develop. If people become accustomed to this mastery of their affects, ethical virtues develop over time and with increasing habituation. As you can clearly see from this model, human reason is involved in the formation of both types of virtue. It is of course responsible for the formation of the intellectual virtues, the dianoetic virtues, but also for the formation of the ethical virtues or character virtues. In the next video, we will take a very close look at how the ethical virtues are developed. We will now look together at what Aristotle understands by the dianoetic virtues and how they can be subdivided. First of all, there are three dianoetic, purely intellectual virtues that relate to pure theory. These virtues are about recognizing the unchangeable. It is about pure contemplation. By this, Aristotle means science, episteme, which deals with general matters. This concerns the formulation of theorems or natural orders, for example in biology. Then there is intelligence, nous in Greek, which asks for overriding principles. In other words, it is about supreme principles, supreme laws of nature, supreme rules of knowledge. Theoretical wisdom refers to science and insight in relation to the most venerable things. The Greek term here is Sophia. This includes astronomy in particular. And then there are two further dianoetic virtues, which are directed towards activity and thus towards changeable things. On the one hand, it is about craft expertise, techne in Greek, which includes production, for example art, technology, craftsmanship, but also medicine. Secondly, practical wisdom or moral insight, phronesis, which is related to action. This is now about morality. This virtue is used to recognize what is morally right and to influence human action. By repeatedly mastering their emotions through practical wisdom, people become accustomed to this good behavior. Such habituation then gives rise to the ethical virtues. For Aristotle, a happy, a good and successful life is a virtuous life. The virtues include the dianoetic virtues, the purely intellectual virtues on the one hand, and the ethical virtues, the virtues of character, on the other. Since the dianoetic virtues are purely rational, they belong to the theoretical way of life. The ethical virtues are important for human coexistence. They are important for the political way of life. By practicing these virtues, a person can attain eudaimonia and lead a good and successful life.